I'm now going to introduce Jennifer, who some of you may also recognize from Dragon's Den. So please put your hands together for Jennifer, please.
Hello, everyone. My name's Jennifer, and I'm the founder and director of Scribbies. Scribbies is, at the moment, a brand of customizable children's shoes, so children can draw all over their shoes, wipe it off, and start again. Now, I say at the moment, because next year, we're launching even more products and really growing the brand. So you'll start to see baseball caps that not only kids, but adults as well can draw on, posters, pencil cases, bags, T-shirts. So we're really growing the brand within the first 2 years. We launched last July, so we're almost at 1.5 years. And we were made, I suppose, most famous by appearing on Dragon's Den this July, where we were offered £60,000 from Kelly Hoppen and Pierce Linney combined. So I thought what I'd do is sort of tell you about my story, because it has actually been quite different to a lot of the previous speakers that you heard about. My first job was actually in a factory, where I washed glass that was then used for fake flower arrangements in M&S. It was a really, really horrible job, but what it taught me was how I didn't want my life to be. I actually did go to university, where I worked my arse off and studied at the same time and used all of my student loan and invested in Apple. I invested in Apple before the days of even iPods, and the money that I made doing that allowed me to then launch the companies that I did later on in my career. So even whilst you're at university, think about the future. I interned whilst I was at Aston Business School at Microsoft and had a fantastic time there. It was working in advertising before the recessions had hit. It was fantastic. I then went to work for Lehman Brothers, and unfortunately in 2008 I lost my job when the banking industry collapsed. When I was at university, the thing that you did was go and get a really good job with a really good corporate, and that's what I went and did. But then losing my job made me realise that no matter what happened in life, I was always going to be a number. And that sort of started the fissure that led to an entrepreneurial sort of pathway. That said, I did actually go work for Lloyds Banking Group for about a year, but I absolutely hated it, and I quit my job. After a year with them, my dad was horrified. I'm from a mixed race family. My dad's Indian. So he was like, give me the number of your manager. I'm going to ask them to give you your job back. He was horrified. So I actually moved out to India, which was for personal reasons. My boyfriend was out there working for the European Union as a trade attaché. So I moved out there to be an expat wife and got really bored because there's only so much sparring and lunching you can do. And it was around then that I had the idea for Scribbies. But to develop a product like Scribbies takes quite a long time. It took us about 18 months of design and development to have a market-ready product, and I wasn't willing to sort of just sit around doing nothing in that spare time, that downtime. So I launched several businesses. Bakebox is the one that was a subscription commerce business, which was inspired by Warren Knight's talk about a year before. Yeah, we sold that business last year. Home Hero was India's, at the time, largest online customizable furniture brand. And Masala Nerds is a web design and branding design development agency, and that's a company that I also run alongside Scribbies, and it's the company that's our cash cow. Because having a company like Scribbies eats cash like you would not believe, and while we have raised investment we did raise investment to launch, it still always consumed money all the way along. So one thing that I'd want to try and impart onto you is that there's no shame in having that side job. That's how most entrepreneurs actually start, and they don't really talk about it. And still now, 1.5 years in, we do take on clients. We have a load of clients with Masala Nerds, and that helps us fund whatever, our food, our life, and give that spare capacity into Scribbies. So I suppose what I wanted to do is sort of share some of my key learnings as an entrepreneur. And the first one is fail fast. I think in the UK, people are too scared of failure, and they're sort of they're so paralysed by it, and they're inert. You don't do anything because you're so scared of failing. But failure is a natural part of being an entrepreneur, and no matter what you do to avoid it, you're still going to end up failing at something. So fail fast. Number 2, get a mentor. Having a mentor for me was the only reason that Scribbies has got off the ground. And that's not only because they've given me advice on different areas of business, but their contact list is also incredibly valuable. Now, I have mentors who are sort of ahead of me in terms of their timeline and where they are. I have mentors who are at a similar stage, and they're great as well, because I can call them up and be like, oh, this has just happened, and what do you think about this? Or if I'm having a really, really shitty day, I can ring up and say, is this normal? I also have mentors who are sort of not lower than me, but at an earlier stage, and I find that I learn from them just as much as I do from the people at the same stage as me and further along in their journey. Be a lean, mean fighting machine, and this basically is inspired by the book The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. If you haven't read that book already, please do. It's an incredible book about sort of launching products or services through a minimum viable product. So not getting carried away with, oh, my product has to be perfect before I launch it. Because the only way you're really going to learn and improve is having your product out in the market and getting that live feedback and then iterating to make your product better and better. Bootstrap. Seeing as I've been made famous by being on Dragon's Den, I suppose it's a little bit counterintuitive for me to sit here and say, don't take investment. But if I could give any advice, it's don't take investment for as long as you possibly can. Because the minute that you do, you add a whole other layer of complexity to your business. And also prior to that, it takes between 6 months and a year to actually go through a funding round. It takes you away from your business because you're so focused on raising the investment. So for as long as possible, keep the ownership of your business and fund it through either having a side business, which is a cash cow, or family money, which is what we did initially, or by any means, really. And the final bit of advice, and I shouldn't really quote a competitor, but just do it. Don't be scared. Just get it launched. Thank you. That's it from me.